Hello and welcome once again to the Dwarven Tavern. I am Lyric, bringing you another beginner's video. And this one is going to be about experience points. Now, I know that if you're a gamer, and if you've played any sort of game, you know for a fact that you get experience. Or rather experience points, excuse me. The reason that they're called that is because you gain them from having experiences in the game. Whether that's, for example, you get experience points to level up your monsters, or your companions, or even your characters. For example, if you wanted to level up your Pokemon, just throwing that out there, you get experience points. You can also level up your character. Or, if you play tabletop games, you know that you get experience points to level up your character. Now, the reason I'm talking to you about this is because it's a little different when it comes to tabletop games. With video games and with apps and with all the electronic games that you can play that give you experience points, it has a set amount of points that it can give you for certain encounters or certain battles and things like that. With tabletop games, it's a little more complex. It's a little more in-depth. Now, you could be in a campaign where everything is kind of set in stone, like the rules are the rules, there are no house rules, the book says this, you get this amount of gold for defeating this monster, and you get this amount of experience points, and you move on to the next encounter. Now, it really just depends on your DM, and it really depends, well, rather I should say GM, because this is all-inclusive, even though here at the tavern we do like to say DM. It's kind of ingrained in us. I'm sorry about the noise. We've got a lot of travelers going by the tavern today. So, it really just depends on the person in charge of the game, how they want to play it. Sometimes they want to play it by the books. Sometimes they want to make it a little more story-based. Now, how do you gain experience points when it is mostly story-based? Well, I will tell you. Some characters... Let me first start out with the characters, the DMs, the GMs that have a set amount of rules. Like in the Monster Manual, just for example, the Monster Manual 3.5, you can get a certain amount of experience points. And it tells you, it's kind of a multiple thing. I know you can find it in the Monster Manual, but I don't have the page memorized. But in the Dungeon Master's Guide, I think it's like page 39, that has the list of all the experience point lists. But anyway, just going off of the Monster Manual, for example, flip to a random page, the Sphinx is a challenge rating 9. So in the Dungeon Master's Guide, using all of my books today, on page 38, I was wrong, it's not 39, it's 38. It has the experience points awards for single monsters. And for example, if you were a level 1st through 3rd character and you fought a challenge rating 9 character, it says in this table you get 700 or 7,200 experience points, or 7,200. And that is per player, I think. Yes. So, if multiple characters, if you have, like, say, 3 3rd-level characters fighting a 9th-level character, a 9th-level monster, they would get that 7,200 experience points divided up amongst themselves. That's Dwarven Tavern House rules. Your DM might, award 7,200 experience points for each character. It really just depends on who you're playing with. So, that is the set rule, and even those can be altered. So, you may get 7,200 experience points for whatever 9th level character or 9th level monster you fight with your 1st through 3rd level character. That's that. That's that encounter. So what do you do when you have a DM who has a story-based game? They may also use that, of course. You can't not give your characters experience points for fighting monsters and the like. So what can you do if they don't even encounter monsters? What should you ask your DM for when you haven't even like rolled a die for any sort of weapon or anything? Well, here at the Dwarven Tavern, we like to roll up experience points, or we like to give experience points to our players for multiple things. It's not just monsters and their encounters. It's not just finding things and doing things. Like, it's not just actions of war. It's not actions of cruelty. It can be things as simple as casting a spell successfully. Here at the tavern, we have the rule of we give 25 to 75 experience points per caster level if the spell is casted successfully, or cast successfully. Grammar, all over the place. So, for example, if I were to cast a 5th level spell, and I am if I were to cast a 0 level spell as a 1st level character, I would only get 25 experience points. However, if I were to cast a 0 level spell as a 5th level character, I would probably get math. I'll figure it out. It's right here. I can't do math at the top of my head like that. So that's how many experience points I would get as a 5th level character casting a 0 level spell. If I were to get 25 experience points, 25 times 5 is 250, no, 525? No, 125? I think it's 125. Let's go with that. So, that's how many experience points you would get for casting that spell. Now, you have a certain amount of spells that you can cast, and it eventually adds up, and you can have, I think I've earned 1,000 experience points for casting like 2 or 3 spells in a day, for my paladin, or my cleric, my Claard. She's my cleric bard, and I cast like 3 or 4 spells in one session, and I gained so many experience points just from that alone. Another thing that you can award your players, if it's mostly a role-playing type game, you find that you're using skills a lot. So why not award them for using their skills? This is something that you have to remind your characters to do every single game, because I, even as an experienced gamer, forget this every single time I roll up a character and we play a new game. You have to remind them, if you're awarding them for their skill checks, whether it's 25 per skill or 75 per skill, or it differs depending on what skill they use, remind them before a game, because they're eventually going to forget, because if it's a storyline based game, you're going to use skills very frequently, and sometimes you forget to keep track of that. So please remind your players, if you are the DM, to keep track of their skills, and I would suggest having a set skill amount, a set skill number that they can use, like 25 per skill, or something like that. Something simple, something easy to keep track of, something that they won't forget. Even then, I still forget it, and I'm very experienced, and I know to write it down on my character sheet so that I don't forget it anymore. And if not, you can just, if they forget, or if you forget, and then suddenly they're asking how much they get for skills, just give them a set amount. Give them like 250 experience points for however many skills. If they cast, or rather, if they had this many skill checks in a game, just give them that many experience points. It's whatever. It's up to you if you want to give them so many experience points per skill, or if you want to give them just a roundabout number for all of their skills that they've successfully rolled. So that's up to you if you want to keep track of that. It's up to you if you want to just, be frivolous with your skill points. I actually found out keeping track of my own skills and giving myself 25 experience points for every skill that I made successfully versus when I forgot and had the DM give me a select number, I actually gained more by keeping track of my skills and getting 25 experience points for each skill rather than getting 250 for the entire session because I forgot. So keep that in mind. Another thing that we like to do at the tavern to keep track of skill points is role-playing. If you are a good role player and you nail that character, figuratively I hope, you earn it, like you are trying to play this sappy romantic who is in love with a demoness or in love with another character and it's unrequited or unrequited. I don't know the pronunciation of that. I've only read it. I've never actually heard it out loud. But anyway, they are in love with this character, and they can't. It's not returned. It's one-sided, and you're just like, oh, I love you. that character, if you play that to a T, you get 400 experience points. Our DM is usually very generous with our role-playing bonuses, as mentioned before in our metagaming video, which is linked below. We usually like to, give them bonuses to encourage that behavior, and even take away that encouragement when they do badly. Like, for example, if you're trying to be a sneaky sneak and all of a sudden you barge in like, hey, what's up? You're not going to get as much experience points for your role-playing because it was bad role-playing. And this actually helps keep the game not only flowing, because they have to remember, oh, I'm going to get experience points if I stay in character, so I better stay in character. And, that helps them. It doesn't, it's not just saying, hey, stay in character for the good of the game. It's saying, hey, stay in character for the good of your character. And I think that that's a nice boost to their morale, which is, it works and it doesn't work. It really depends on the character, and they have to remember that they're going to get experience points for that role-playing. So that's a good one to do. And of course, at the tavern, we like to give experience points out just for being in the game. And that's called the session bonus. We like to give, I've been as generous as giving 1,000 experience points for the session if it's a really long session. If it's like an 8-hour game, that is, and everyone stays in character, and everyone participates, and we only break for munchies once or twice, that's 1,000 experience points to me. So, those characters will level up like that if you play them for a long period of time, which I think is, pretty fair. I've gotten as little as 250 experience points for a game because we only played it for about 2 hours, and that's fine. It really just depends on how generous your DM is. I've had DMs give us 100 experience points for session, for a 4-hour session, and I've given, like I said, 1,000 for 4 hours. It really just depends on who you're playing with, who's DMing, and what the characters are doing, because sometimes a character who is more in depth and a character who is not more in depth will get, opposite experience points. It really just depends. Usually the session bonus is an overall number. It doesn't differ between characters unless one character is being really bad, and usually that's left to the roleplay bonus. And last but not least, actually this is probably the most important, is that you should give your characters experience points for ideas. And this can be anything from they tell you that their character is going to do exactly what you wanted them to do, or their character comes up with an idea that is completely different, but works even better than what you wanted them to do, or it's even a character can come up with an idea that baffled the DM themselves. So it really just depends on what the ideas are. For example, I've gotten experience points from tying ropes together. I've gotten experience points from tracking down a character rather than staying at the inn and waiting for them to come. I've gotten experience points from just like the different... Oh, this was actually one of my proudest accomplishments recently, was I had the Claude that I mentioned earlier, my cleric bard. She wanted to cast holy water on all of the surrounding area in a graveyard because they had just fought 2 giant spiders. One was a huntsman spider, and the other one was a different spider that I don't remember the name of, but they were huge, and they were evil. They had evil markings on them, and I could tell because I was a cleric. So I wanted to cleanse the ground. I didn't have consecrate yet. I was not high enough level. So I wanted to cleanse the ground in the only way that I could, and that was with holy water. The only problem is that I didn't know of a way that I could splash holy water over the entire graveyard. So what I did is I cast 2 spells. The first spell was I cast Obscuring Fog, and then I cast Holy Water, and to make the fog itself holy. The DM, there are some technicalities to that to where it could not work, like perhaps my holy water was only in a certain square foot range, like I could only cast water or holy water on a certain amount of water in my hands or something like that. We didn't look too much into the book, which is okay. You can do that for your characters if they've come up with something really ingenious like this idea. And I cast this, and the DM was like, that was actually very smart. Even though it might not agree with the rules in the book, I think that was a great idea. So I'm going to give you 250 experience points for that idea. And I'm going to make sure that it works because that was a great idea. So it really just depends, like I said, on the DM, if the thing is even going to work. And even if it wasn't a successful spell, you can still get experience points for the ideas. So, which has happened before. Don't get me wrong, there have been some spells that I have cast and all this trickery and stuff, and it hasn't worked, but my DM's like, good try, I'm going to give you 50 experience points for that. So, please use these ideas, or at least implement them in at least one of your games and see how they work out for you. And comment below if you have methods or things that your characters get experience points for that I didn't mention, because we'd love to know what else you give your characters experience points for. Saying that same word over and over again is just killing my mouth. So please comment below if you have any suggestions or comments or, ideas, or if you implement any of these ideas in your next campaign and you wanted to tell us how it went, because we're very curious about your feedback. So that's this beginner's video. We really look forward to hearing from you, and if you have any suggestions, please comment below. Otherwise, I have been Lyric Goins, and this is the beginner videos that I like to do the most. If you have any suggestions for beginners videos, please comment below. I did remember to do the minis. I have yet to do that one. I need to do a little more research on my own time. I'm not really a big minis expert, so I'll have to look into that before I do a beginner's video on that. Otherwise, look forward to more beginners videos. We have a lot of Gen Con videos that are going to come up here shortly after we come home from Gen Con, which is in like 7 days. Whoop whoop. So look forward to those. And I have been Lyric. Once again, I'm rambling. I need to stop. And we here at the Tavern, on behalf of the entire cast and crew of the Dwarven Tavern, here at the Dwarven Tavern. Dwarven Tavern, Dwarven Tavern. Wish for you to want for nothing but adventure, and at first I feared it, then I charged. Thank you once again for watching, and we'll see you next time.